guest. Welcome back.
Hi. I don't know what happened there. I just dropped off the face of the internet as soon as you started your intro.
As I was saying, welcome to Talking Time with Caffeine. If you just do it, it'll turn out okay. And I have a returning guest again. Introduce yourself.
Sure thing. Howdy there, folks. I'm Doc Dino, as last on a couple weeks back. Happy to return and talk about some dinosaurs.
Awesome. Today, we'll be talking about a branch of dinos called the, if I pronounce this right, ornithischians.
There's a few ways you can pronounce it. Some people say ornithischians, some say ornithischians. I usually say ornithischians, but there's no real correct way to do it.
Sweet. I made this joke on the Dapper's channel a few hours ago, but like these are some, the lame the like the civilian term is known as the bird-hip dinosaurs, but with no birds in their descendants.
Yep.
Correct.
It's just a case of convergent evolution. Which weird how that happens.
Yeah. So what can you tell us about these dinosaurs?
Well, they are the bird-hipped dinosaurs. It's weird. The text there is supposed to be gray, so it stands out. But these are the classically herbivorous dinosaurs. If there are any known carnivorous members of this group, then that's news to me. Some might have been omnivores, but this is where you get like your ankylosaurs, your stegosaurs, your ceratopsians, and ornithopods. So some pretty well-known groups, even though they're rarely people's favorites. But when they are, they're cool people.
So are the big dots here the ones we're going to be talking about? The groups?
Yeah, the red dots up here are places where we're going to stop along the family tree. For anyone who isn't familiar with reading these things, we start at the base, all the way on the left, and slowly work our way upwards. Now, keep in mind, we'll be looking at some standouts along the line, but there are a few, let's just say, body types or archetypes of ornithischians that stay around all the way to the end of the Cretaceous. It's just some weird and wacky creatures kind of branch off as time goes on.
As far as we know, there are no surviving lineages today of this group.
As far as we know, yeah. Which is, it's at the same time kind of surprising and also kind of not, because a lot of things went extinct at the end of the Cretaceous, but there were still plenty of small ornithischians around. In fact, we'll get into a few a bit later that had some really interesting adaptations that probably helped them survive, like the Triassic and Jurassic extinction events.
Well, there is only it's not too surprising. There is only one lineage of synapses that are alive today.
True.
It's a big lineage, the mammals, but still, it's only one path survived.
All right. Well, first off, we're going to go to that first node on that tree. Those are the heterodontosaurids. You can think of these as kind of the stand-in for your basic ornithischians. They're mostly small-bodied. They're generalists, so they can be... Some are most likely omnivorous, but most of them would have probably been herbivorous. They might have had some burrowing adaptations. I believe there's at least a few genera that seem to have been pretty good burrowers. And they were probably fluffy. They probably had at least some feathers. And they're just generally little toothy gremlins whenever you
Yeah,
look at them.
it looks like this one could either be a biped or quadruped.
Uh, kind of. So this is Heterodontosaurus tucae, and its arms were long enough that it could probably, stand on all fours, reach some low-hanging plants or something, but it probably moved around as a biped for the most part. Also, I do want to cite, because this is important in discussions of dinosaurs, the phylogeny that all this is based on is one from 2021, so it's pretty recent, though
Okay.
I've heard some things have moved around in recent years. It's by Madzia et al. And I had access through it through PubMed, if anyone wants to look it up.
So it's always nice to have the most updated stuff you can get. So it's not, so you're saying it's not 20 years old, like a creationist source.
No. I try to stay up to date as much as I can while still making sure things are well supported. Because things can be new and wrong. You want to go for what's best supported, and this has been cited by quite a few people, so it seems to be pretty robust.
So these used to go underground like moles and stuff.
Possibly. At least it appears that they could have dug at least a bit, even if they weren't fabulous at it. As you can see on this reconstruction, they still had all 5 fingers, which most ornithischians lose later on. So they would have had nice kind of broad hands, pretty good for digging. They still would have had sharp claws because they were predominantly bipeds. And they were small. Heterodontosaurids, I think the biggest they got was maybe 5 to 6 feet long, which is pretty small for a non-avian dinosaur. And also Eddie McCoy. So the species name is tucae. I'm not sure who that's after, but that suffix means it's named after someone with the name of Tuck.
Anybody have any questions about this clade of dinosaurs before we move on? Any questions at all?
Yeah. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. And yep, I was right. The name honors G.C. Tuck, who apparently helped discover it. Well, I mean, if any questions pop up, we can come back to this slide. But until then, we're probably good to move on. Alrighty. So up next, we have the Thyreophorans. So these are the dinosaurs that will lead to ankylosaurs and stegosaurs. Those groups appear to be pretty closely related, and these are what the most basic members would have looked like. A lot of them have what are called osteoderms, which are literally bones in the skin. They help a lot for defense. If you've ever seen an alligator or a crocodile, you've seen something with osteoderms. It's pretty common in reptiles. But Thyreophorans go all out. They get some pretty big jagged spikes. They get those big display plates. And they also become very dedicated herbivores. Very early on in their evolution, they get really big bellies, and they start moving around quadrupedally.
No, this was the one that surprised me the most when I first heard about that Stegosaurus and Clitosaurus were that closely related. Well, I was going to say that close related, but yeah, technically that close related.
Yeah, they were. And in fact, we have transitional dinosaurs before the split. So they have characteristics of both. They have the big plates of stegosaurs and spikes of stegosaurs, and the armor plating of ankylosaurs. It's pretty cool.
Nice.
And I do agree the names are a mouthful, but you kind of get that every now and then with extinct groups.
Okay.
Scientists like to be specific. And as for the dinosaurs on screen, we have Scutellosaurus, which I forget where it's from. Let me double check. But it's from the early Jurassic, and it lived in Arizona. So these guys had a fairly global distribution, which is interesting. This is before / right about when the Mid-Atlantic, I believe, started to open up. So these guys got all over the planet. And then they started changing. And then a little later on, in I believe the late Middle Jurassic, we get dinosaurs like Coelidosaurus, which, again, I said they got big bellies and they became quadrupeds pretty early. And they definitely did. They just hunkered down, covered themselves in armor, and started eating. Now, of course, evolution is more complicated than that, but it's basically the path they went on.
Yeah.
And they were very successful. Like, again, this is another group that we have representatives of all the way to the end of the Cretaceous.
As far as we know, none of these were carnivores, or decided to go the carnivore route.
Not dedicated carnivores. I mean, obviously, like most herbivores today, if they came across a fresh carcass, they might have dug in a bit, but they weren't dedicated to it.
Yeah.
Oh, and geez, correct me if I'm wrong. Did you changed the theme of the presentation before we went live, right?
Oh, yeah. It's sometimes it's easier to see it. For some people's eyes, it's easier for black and white. Black. So,
Okay. I'll keep that in mind in the future, but yeah, I'm just noticing some of the text is darker on your version than it is in mine.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to look up that piece of Solidosaurus art, which I would recommend, all of the artists for all of the art pieces in the presentation, they will be on screen, folks, if you want to check them out. Highly encourage it. The Solidosaurus in particular is by Teratophonius on DeviantArt.
Yeah.
And then the Scutellosaurus is by Gabriel Ugueto, who he just does so much fabulous work.
All right. Number 5.
Up next. Okay. Now we get into some different different ornithischians. These are Thescelosaurs. And while they might kind of look like your basic ornithischians, they get a bit weird. They get shorter arms, but it appears that at least a few of them became burrowers, because we have quite a few of them dead in their own burrows, where it appears they were like killed during a flood or a volcanic eruption. We have a lot of them.
But wait, a flood, not quote the flood.
Yes, a small scale flood.
This one
but
almost looks
still in their
like a.
burrows, and like we find entire families of these dinosaurs just buried together.
This almost looks like a bird, kind of.
Kinda. So that is Calindodromius, which is one of these thescelosaurs from, I think it's Russia, somewhere in Asia. And we have feather impressions and scale impressions all over the body. So we know what this thing looked like. It's really cool. And again, I'm saying that again. Feathers. These things were fluffy. It appears that feathers, like the original dinosaur, whatever it was probably feathery, because we see these in ornithischians and in saurischians,
So were
and
these
even in non-dinosaur archosaurs like pterosaurs.
So were these like full-fledged feathers, or like more like downy baby bird feathers, or somewhere in between?
Downy feathers they're not quite downy feathers, but those might be one of the closer analogs today. But yeah, they would have been fluffy. And let's see, there's one of these from China. Let me see if I can. Yes, something Lugiatun.
Like,
Changmiania, Lugiatunensis, where we found just, I think it was, yeah, there was one specimen where there was just a pair of them curled around each other in a burrow. Changmiania.
like a couple or a family.
Yeah. Oh, geez, I'm having trouble finding an image of that particular specimen, but Wikipedia has a, oh, come on, if it'll behave, Wikipedia has a really good photo, and I'll send I'll send you the link if you want to pop it up on screen. It's really cool. Because, like I said, these were burrowers, so we get really good fossils of these guys. And we have them all the way to the end of the Cretaceous again. The dinosaur this group is named for, the Celosaurus, lived with Tyrannosaurus Rex in the Hell Creek.
Any famous ones that we might know in this lineage, or these like not known by the public that well?
What was that?
It said any famous ones in their family tree that we might know about?
They not a lot of people know about many of these, I think.
Okay.
Like a lot of people don't pay attention to the small dinosaurs. They look at the big ones, you know. But dinosaurs were a very diverse group, and they did a whole lot of things.
I guess that happens when you live over 100 million years.
Yeah. Let's see. Yep, mammals weren't the only burrowers. I agree. They're pretty cute. And yeah, it should remind you of a bird. They are related, at least distantly.
And not as close to some dinosaurs, but still dinosaurs.
Yeah. Would you mind popping up the link I sent you on Discord?
Oh, you sent me on Discord. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you sent me on the private chat.
Oh yeah, there is a private chat here. I can post it there too.
1 second.
But it really is exquisite, and as far as we know, they appear to have died sleeping, probably suffocated by volcanic ash
1 second.
or volcanic gases. because the burrows are filled with ash.
Figure this out. Take it over here. Check. 1 second.
Let's see. What can I say in the meantime? Oh, yep. Here we go. So again, this is Changmianya. I have a lot of trouble saying that name. But it's another one of these little thessaliosaurs from China, and it's far from the only one. It is tragic, yeah, but what was it?
I thought something a question I thought about before.
Okay.
All right.
What was the question?
Okay. Hold on. Backing up. Okay. The area each of these came from.
Oh, sure.
Do you know area what's each of these clades started from? Have their start from? They might later. They might have they might have diversified other places.
Well, the places they originated are a bit hard to say.
Okay.
Heterodontosaurus here is from South Africa, but we have heterodontosaurs from everywhere, I think.
Yeah. Well, eventually, yeah, they all in a few million years, and probably very small continent. If anything, in the beginning Triassic, no continent divided. They could be spread all over the place. In the Triassic, since we're still one big continent.
Yeah, and same for the Thybreophrans, because folks here, keep in mind, the latest we're going to go in this presentation is the earliest part of the late Jurassic. We are not hitting our dinosaurs hit their absolute peak yet, or started to hit their stride. They're still kind of in the growing phase.
Yeah,
but you can see hints of what would come later.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a future episode.
Yes, we will. Because in that episode, you're going to see all of these groups just go absolutely nuts.
Right. And do we know what this is, Africa too, or someplace else?
Calindodromius? Let me double check. I know it's from Asia. Yep, it's from Russia.
Okay.
The one above it, Eryctodromius. Eryctodromius is from Montana, actually. From the Middle Cretaceous. The new hypothesis that ornithischians descended from Silosaurs. We did not go over that here. We did talk about that a bit in the previous episode, though. So, to give a bit of background, the origins of the groups of dinosaurs are not super well understood. Because it happened a long time ago. Most of these groups probably first appeared in the early to middle Jurassic, and then the earliest representatives of them we have that are identifiable are from like the late Jurassic or the Cretaceous. This happens with a lot of groups, like dromaeosaurs. Dromaeosaurs are also really bad at this. I think one of the oldest ones we have is Utahraptor, which is nuts.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a future episode. But is Is that what they confused the Velociraptors for in Jurassic Park, Utah Raptors?
No. So in Jurassic Park, and it's very explicit in the book, the Velociraptors are based on Deinonychus, me. They are too big and they should have feathers, but they are definitely Deinonychus. Um, they are explicitly Deinonychus. Uh, they're based on a very controversial idea, by which I mean one person one person put it forward and put it in his book, and then Michael Crichton read that book when he was writing Jurassic Park, that Deinonychus was really an American species of velociraptor.
Okay, because I remember the Utah Raptor came around was discovered around the same time the movie came out.
It was discovered while Jurassic Park was in production.
And unlike the Velociraptors, it actually was could be the size. The Velociraptors were much smaller than they said they were. It was actually the size of it. So I thought that might be one of the, but totally wrong family tree.
Yeah, they're not too distantly related. But there is a big time gap, and the morphology is pretty different.
But we will get to that time gap in either next episode or episode after that, depending if we go after theropods or sauropods morphs, sauropod
yeah.
morphs, or theropod morphs next.
Yes, and that will be far down the line, because the first dromaeosaurs we have are early Cretaceous.
All right. Next.
Not counting birds. All right. Then, this is our second to last group for today. These are the marginocephalians. So that's a long word. Let's break it down. I just realized I probably should have done that for the last few. But a marginocephalian, so cephala or cephalus means head. Margin, well, I mean, what English word does that sound like? Margin. They have a border around their head, specifically on the back of their head. They have a shelf back there. And these are a group of unarmored ornithischians, except for that head. The heads of marginocephalians are pretty solidly built, even starting off, and they have that little kind of head shield, though it's a little too small to be used as a shield. And they probably had some fluff, too. From later marginocephalians, like Psittacosaurus, we know that even in the middle early Cretaceous, they still had some feathers on their tails. And if you wanted to pick a group of ornithischians to be generalists other than heterodontosaurids, you could probably pick these guys. Like, they, starting out, had really robust tooth batteries, so just big chunks of teeth in their jaws, as well as beaks, really sharp beaks. And there have been some hypotheses floated that they might have been more omnivorous than we'd think. I'm not sure how the data on that shakes out, especially with the earlier ones, but as you can see, this little ceratopsian is shown, well, marginocephalian is shown raiding a nest.
So ceratopians, is this where the Proceratops and Triceratops came from?
Yep, this line will eventually lead to ceratopsians and pachycephalosaurs.
And do we,
Go ahead.
and do we know around which area these got their origin from?
So with the marginocephalians, we have a decent signal by which I mean we basically only find the early ones in Asia.
Okay.
And then they appear to radiate out in the sort of later early / middle Cretaceous.
Okay.
But for a long time, they appear to be a mostly Asian group,
And
and they
these
do
got
stay
their
way to the end.
origins in the we're still in the Jurassic in their origin, right?
Yes, they would have originated in the probably in more in the middle Jurassic
Oh,
rather than the
we're in the
late Jurassic.
Jurassic now. Okay, I didn't know
Yeah.
if I haven't known if we had the big continental divide between Gondwana and Eurasia had happened yet. Eurasia had happened yet, or if we were still one continent, or we're two now.
I believe it has happened by now. Yes. And we have someone asking, how did this animal survive? Probably pretty well. Uh, like we have enough ceratopsians as time goes on to know they did really well. Honestly, if you want to think of a modern analog for them, probably the best one would be like a modern pig or a suids, which, while yes, they are common prey species, they're also everywhere. And they'll eat just about anything. And they do really, really, really well.
This was invading a nest. You said it was like eating it, so it was eating other. It might be a carnivore then, or at least that.
This is just the artwork.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure we have any direct fossil evidence of them preying on other animals. It's just the artwork. I thought it looked good. Because there's not really a lot of good art of this genus specifically.
Penworm brings up a good question. In the links down the description below, Dr. Dino here has a GoFundMe, Venmo, and Cash Apps and other stuff below. You want to check it out. The links are linked down below, plus some of my stuff too. If you feel like if you're extra, it would be extra generous and get some of my merch too. But yeah, all of his links are down below. Cash App, all that stuff for Dr. Dino, and GoFundMe.
Yes, thank you. I was thinking we could probably go into that more at the end. I could talk about it more now if you want. It's up to you. It's your stream.
We can go. And he had a question, so I was just telling you where you could go.
That's fair. Yes, links in the description. Can do GoFundMe, or if you want to donate to me directly, because GoFundMe does take a cut. There is also Venmo and Cash App in the description. Don't feel like you have to donate, though, but anything that is donated does help.
And finally, the last group today.
Yes, the last group, sort of. So these are the ornithopods. And whenever you think of a small generic dinosaur, these probably pop in your mind for very, very good reason. Ornithopods are possibly the... Sorry, there's some weird noise coming through. I think your microphone.
I'm sure how.
Sorry, there was some like really high pitched feedback I was hearing.
Weird. It shouldn't be. I have my headphones on, so.
Sorry, maybe that was just me. These headphones are kind of dying. Anyway, ornithopods, as far as we have them, going back in time all the way to the end of the Cretaceous, are extremely successful. Most of them are pretty small, they're pretty agile, they're bipeds still. They keep that trait, although later ones do go down on all fours, probably for most of the time, though they could retain the ability to run on their hind legs. And they're still kind of generalists. Like, what data we have for their diets, like stomach contents and, coprolites, it seems they just kind of ate a little bit of everything. Staying as bipeds, They could reach up high and down low to the ground, just mowing down whatever they wanted.
So these could have been omnivores then.
Uh, Probably they would have been herbivores,
Okay.
but I'm just saying, like, whatever plant matter they wanted to eat, they could probably just eat it. I talked before about how the marginocephalians had robust, like, tooth batteries. The ornithopods take it to an absolutely insane extent. Like, they basically just have four huge sharpening blocks in their mouth that they use to grind their food. They're some of the only dinosaurs that develop an almost mammal-like method of chewing. Actually,
Hmm.
it's it's kind of crazy. Um, but for this time period, they're still small. This here Dryosaurus is from the end of the Jurassic because though we know they had to have diverged by the middle Jurassic, we don't have many of them. Uh, what we do have is pretty incomplete. Um, but even into the late Jurassic, there are some bigger ones, but most of them are pretty small. They're small, they're fast, and they are everywhere. Like, even if it's only a few scattered bones, we have these things on every continent.
Nice. And do you know where they got their origins from?
That I don't think we know.
All right.
They, like, we have some faint echoes of them in Europe, I think, and then they just appear everywhere. Uh, but I do believe that is all for this episode's presentation.
Anybody have
Um,
any questions about? Anybody have any questions for any of these particular clades? We can
sure.
ask. Meanwhile, while we wait for questions, can you tell us a little bit about your GoFundMe and stuff?
Yes, I can. So, for anyone who doesn't know me, I am Doc Dino, Doctor Dino. I am a I'm a
Not to be
YouTuber.
confused with
Yes.
another. Not to be confused with another person claiming to be Dr. Dino.
Well, yes, my name is a parody of his. Um, I like to talk about dinosaurs and geology and stuff here on YouTube. But in my daily life, I am a volunteer fossil preparator when I'm not working. Uh, and I'm hoping to eventually do that full time. Go to museums, clean fossils, organize collections, stuff like that. You know, be more of a paleontologist than just in a volunteer capacity. And this summer, I am organizing an expedition to do some field work towards that end. I'm hoping to go out to the Badlands of Wyoming in order to track down the original dig site that some fossils came from that are in my university's collection. Should be a fun 2 to 4 weeks, depending on how much funding I get. And yeah, it should be a really fun time. If you want to donate, again, you don't have to, but if you do, um, I will be doing, or I will, sorry, words. Whatever you donate, if I do not use it on my expedition, which I shouldn't use all of it, will be donated to a local museum fund. So
All right. All right.
should be good.
We have a question.
Okay. What is your favorite ornithischian? Well, we're probably not going to see it for a little bit, but it is a member of the Thyreophorans. It's called Stegoros. It's a small ankylosaur with a giant battle axe for a tail. It looks super absurd, but I love it. It is so cute and it's so spiky. And it's like the size of a big sheep, so you could have it as a pet.
Yeah.
How about you?
Let's see on this. Hmm. That's, I think I forget which clade it is. But it's the one, the ones with the battering ram heads.
Pachycephalosaurus.
Are they in this? Are those in the same clade as the duckbill dinosaur? The duck the quote duckbill dinosaurs.
They're not. They are actually closest related to the ceratopsians. Also, I just sent you a
Okay,
link to an image of my favorite dinosaur. It's in the private chat this time.
I will put it up real fast.
Um, Katina has a fun question. How could hypotheses on their behaviors be tested? That's a good question, and that depends on which dinosaurs we're talking about. So when it comes to stuff like pachycephalosaurs, like we were just talking about, we think they butted heads for a few reasons. First, because they have big armored heads, like say bighorn sheep or a lot of other modern animals that we know butt heads. Their skull has a really unique morphology for a dinosaur. So, if you look at a human skull, your spinal cord enters your head through the very bottom. That's actually kind of weird. For most animals, it comes in through kind of the back of the head. For Pachycephalosaurs, it's the same way. So that would have made it so they could really easily lower their head and bash something with that dome without risking injury to their spine. And then to top it all off, a large percentage of the Pachycephalosaur skulls we find have dents in them that match other Pachycephalosaur heads. We have similar data for dinosaurs like ankylosaurs. There was a really, really famous paper that came out a couple of years ago for a dinosaur called Zool, Zuul, where the researchers did, they took measurements of its body and realized, hey, this thing has tail club shaped dents covering its flanks. And then they started looking at other tail club or tail club holding ankylosaurs, and they found the same marks in a lot of them.
Mm.
So it seems like they were bashing each other with those clubs. Uh, Now you can't find data like that for every behavior. There's always going to be some element of speculation when it comes to dinosaurs
Yeah.
with any extinct animal.
So
But some of it can be supported, and it's pretty cool when it is.
I just thought of something. I thought so. Is there on the clades that we looked at today, basic clades at least today, was there one clade that had their quote weapon or whatever it's called on the back end, and the clade had the weapon on the front end?
Not really out of those we looked at today.
Okay, because
The Marginocephalians would eventually get there, but
I know the
no.
Stegosaurus and Ankylosaurus were in one section that had their back ends, and the Triceratops and the head butters. I can't remember. I can't pronounce their name. Was on the front end.
Pachycephalosaurus.
Yeah, I didn't know they were. Those two were in the same clade area too.
Yeah, and it. But dinosaurs are cool.
Yep.
But I mean, all of these things, like if they needed to, they could probably bite pretty hard. Most of them have beaks, and those that don't usually have pretty Pretty
Yeah.
nasty fangs.
Yeah. Turtles have beaks, but they can still bite your feet. You want to be anywhere near their mouth.
Oh yeah, snapping turtles are vicious.
Even the herbivores. I don't know about us, but I saw a short YouTube video about herbivore some herbivore tortoises, and once a big one saw the little ones were in his territory, he just started going after it. Like, this is my land, buddy. So planet eaters can be just as vicious as meat eaters sometimes.
Okay, well, do anyone have any other questions?
Yeah, I do. Were these warm-blooded too, or was that just on the other side?
Uh, so I'd have to double check the data on that, but I would be surprised if they weren't warm
Okay.
blooded.
I didn't
At
know.
least when it comes to the smaller ones.
Yeah, I didn't know when that warm-bloodedness started in their family, or if it was convergent, or in different lineages, or a basal lineage of dinosaurs.
I would say so. Starting out, at least for all these groups, they're small. Most of them have feathers. You don't see a whole lot of cold-blooded animals with feathers or fluff like fur, stuff like that, because they don't need to really regulate their body temperature. You have it for animals that do need to regulate it, and that's what we call being warm-blooded. So at least for the ones that have confirmed feathers, it's probably pretty likely that they had warm blood. And I'm double checking because you can get body temperatures or body temperature estimates from other things. Like your teeth actually retain a record of your body temperature. So do eggs. And I'm looking through a paper right now that um words. Wow. Um I'm looking through a paper right now that talks about body temperature estimates based off of eggshells. Let's see. Okay, results. So I'm
Speaking
reading
of,
through this now, but the temperatures are based on modern animal body temperatures and their eggshells. Bone growth rings, yes, they can. You can't really do that with fossils, though, in most cases, because most fossil bones are not original material, at least when it comes to dinosaur age ones.
despite what some craziness might tell you.
Yeah. Um, oh, they actually have a pretty good. Um, they have pretty good sample size here. So let's see, morphology of eggshells. Come on. Come on. Okay. So.
I need a picture. Yeah, I need a
Oh,
picture
this
to
is.
share. I need a picture to share.
Uh, is there a way for me to share my screen?
Yes, just go to that little arrow, computer arrow thing.
I got it. So here are their results. So again, these are body temperature measurements based on modern animals. And so there's a wide range for theropods, which I find pretty interesting. For ornithopods, though. So like this is a Myosora up here. It has an estimated body temperature of about like 43, 44 degrees Celsius, which I think puts it right around what modern birds get. Like on the higher end, but still within what birds have. Uh, Same for some of these theropods. I'm curious about these lower ones, though. Those are low for what I would expect. Um, hmm,
All right, and I think the last question
interesting.
that we have right now is
Oh, possibly a capacity for heterothermic metabolism. Okay, so they can operate at different temperatures
hmm,
depending on the environment. I think there are some animals that, um, I think I could be wrong. I think bears do that. Like I think their body temperature drops when they hibernate. I could be wrong about that. It's pretty cool though. Wonder how accurate the Jurassic Park movies are with dinosaurs. See, it's weird. The first Jurassic Park movie is almost like a time capsule. There are some problems, but on the whole, the dinosaurs that you see in that movie are very accurate for the time. The raptors should have had feathers, but well, actually, they were originally planned to have feathers, but they couldn't due to technological limitations. They just couldn't get it to look good with the CGI they had access to.
and and surprisingly, that's one of the few CGI movies that still hold up to today's standards. I think,
Yeah, because they knew what they could do and what they couldn't do.
or shouldn't, or
That's also why most of the time when you see a dinosaur in that movie, it's an animatronic, not CGI.
that couldn't do and shouldn't do.
Yes, yes. Um, for Jurassic Park, for the later movies, a lot of them, like 2 and 3, are still decently good
But when
when
they
it comes to accuracy.
yeah, well, when they got into mixed genes, that kind of went off the rails there. Maybe
Yeah, the Jurassic World movies are all over the place. Some of the reconstructions are stellar, like the Carnotaurus. Others are utterly horrific, like how they completely downgraded the Triceratops and the Stegosaurus. The Apatosaurus is awful,
and they gave the
and so is
mosasaur
the Sinoceratops.
steroid. They get the mosasaur steroids. I heard.
Well, the Mosasaur size is just abs. It's inconsistent between shots. Um, but even at its smallest, it's I think it's 1.5 to 2 times the size of the largest recorded mosasaur. um, oh,
And
Katina is asking how on earth is the body temperature determined? Um, would you mind posting this link in your chat?
sure,
So they go over how they get it in this paper. Long story short, uh, there are different forms an element can take, different weights or masses. We call these different weights and masses isotopes. Different isotopes will deposit at different rates at different temperatures. So, like, let's say you grow calcite crystals in your lab. If you run the experiment at 20 degrees Celsius, um, you might get more of the, I think it, you might get more of the lower weight oxygen and carbon and calcium in your calcite. And you can pick that up when you run it through a mass spectrometer. If you do it at 30 degrees, you'll get more of the heavier elements 40 degrees, even more, so on and so forth. So after you do those experiments, or you analyze what the results are from living animals that you can monitor the body temperature of, you can replicate it on unknown animals. And you can test those results with animals you just haven't measured yet, and then go on to like extinct animals, which is what they did here. It's the same process.
So,
The one in room got something from your Amazon list. That's cool.
yeah, thank you. Like you know, I said, if you want to support him or me, links are down below. Fund his go. Wow, fun there. Go fund his GoFundMe for his
Thank
summer
you.
trip.
Grazie. And for anyone who's interested in learning more about this stuff, there's a bunch of papers on it. I think they started coming out in like 2007 or something, and they've just kept coming out every year since then. They're really cool, and they're doing it for more and more dinosaurs. We're getting more data. So far, it appears a lot of dinosaurs had body temperatures like birds. And what's really funny is once you get to a certain point, like being a sauropod, it's more important to figure out how to just dump heat than it is to gain heat, which might be part of why sauropods have such long necks and tails, just to help dump that heat. It's cool.
Yeah. Too bad. Too bad the sauropods. Again, we'll talk about next time. But too bad the sauropods suffer from that situation that giraffes have with their nerve worse than they do.
Oh yeah, yeah. It gets bad in sauropods. Temper. Trying to find a good graph for it.
While we're waiting for it, we're waiting for that. You have the audience out there, unless Dr. Diana's already decided. Next episode in a month or two, depending on a month or two, depending when he's free again. Would you like us to talk about the basal sauropods next, or the basal tetrapods? Tetrapods.
Tetrapods.
Not the really basal.
I think we're a little beyond that.
Sauropodomorphs or God.
Theropods.
Theropods. Next.
It's okay. It happens. It happens.
Basal tetrapods.
Here. So this is a fairly good graph, though it depends. So here's kind of what I was talking about. So depending on the water in an area, you're going to have different isotopes of the water in different concentrations. As the temperature gets higher, you're going to have more heavy water, quote unquote. As it gets lower, you're going to have less heavy water. At least in proportion. And yeah, that's just kind of how it goes. You can measure this really easily. You can measure it in your own rainfall if you collect it and send it off to a lab to have it analyzed via mass spectrometry. You can figure out where your water came from. I had to do that. I actually had to do it in a lab. And yeah, here's another graph. This is measuring it in looks like travertine. It's pretty cool. Whichever seems more organic.
Well, maybe I'll put up a poll or something, or unless you want to decide.
Be a fun way to do it.
Any last questions before, since this is a short episode today? Any last minute questions?
I think I'm good.
All right. Okay. Besides your big summer trip, anything else coming up that you want to advertise?
Nothing right now. I'm working on a couple new shorts, so hopefully those will be out before long. Other than that, I think I'm good.
All right. All right. Okay. All right. For me, in 2 weeks, I will be concluding my Before Earth miniseries, where the Earth finally arrives. The start of the show is finally here. And then it's no longer Before Earth, because it is Earth. And then next week, we'll be reviewing my friend's Things That Pissed Me Off YouTube series, while we go back in time and look how cringy and accurate some of his old videos are. So look forward to that.
Sounds like fun.
Do you have a catchphrase you like to say at the end of your streams?
And just have a good day, folks. Thanks for joining us. And see you soon.
As I always say, never stop learning. Enjoy the randomness. We'll see you next time.